Hello and welcome to another ice block tutorial. Thank you so much for joining us. I wanted to do a quick little one on sound editing and the basics of understanding how to do sound editing within Adobe Premiere. So what you'll see is we have our project already going. We've got our timeline and we have background music. We've got a video clip just so we have something to look at. It's this gentleman making very large rows out of balloons. And we've got some narration. So what we're going to do is focus on some of the ideas behind sound editing and the basic tools that come in Adobe Premiere. First thing we'll do is drop our music track onto the timeline. There it is. And we'll play it back so we can hear it. All right. Now if you look over here, you'll see that it's kissing up to the 0 decibel level, which is good, that's fine. We are not peaking, that makes me happy. And let's take a look at some of our audio controls. Now, right now, we cannot see the volume of this audio track. If we go over here and use the up and down scroll, you'll see that we can grow the audio track and we can zoom in. And you'll see in the center there's a white line. That's where the volume is at. And right now it's at 0 dB. We can boost it up, plus 6.2 dB, and we can pull it down. Now it's barely audible. As you move it up, it gets louder. And this song is compressed, so the audio is mostly hanging out almost at -0 dB. So if we boost it too much, you'll see that we get these little red markers that means we have clipped. Now we want to get it back down to 0 dB, and you'll see that this slider is a little too analog to get it exactly at 0. If you want it precisely at 0, we can double click the file and then go over to Effect Controls. Here we have Volume, Channel Volume, and Panner. Go to the volume, open that up, and what we want to do first is turn off the keyframes. And then you can double click this and return it to 0. And notice that we are not peaking anymore. All right, so that's the basic idea. Let's add our narration. Alright, that's terrible, because the music is so very loud and the audio is not loud. You'll see that the audio has not been normalized and it also has not been compressed. The music has been compressed. Compressed audio will sound louder than uncompressed audio. So what we need to do is bring the music down so that we can hear the narration. First thing I want to do is get the narration into that -6 to -0 dB level. So what I'm going to do is mute the background music and just play back the narration. There was a young man so benighted. He never knew when he was slighted. Now you'll see it's hanging out at -6 to -12, and that means we can boost it. Well, let's just kick it up 4 and see what happens. He would go to a party and eat just as hearty as if he'd been really... Now we're hanging out at the -6 to -3 level. Let's boost it a little more. There was a young man so benighted. He never knew when he was slighted. He would go to a party and eat just as hearty as if he'd been really invited. Alright, so that's hanging out between -6 and -0, and you'll notice that it didn't peak anywhere in there. Now, we can just grab this music and drag it down and unmute it. There was a young man so benighted. That's still a little loud, so let's pull it down even further to -12-ish. There was a young man so benighted. He never knew when he was slighted. He would go to a party and eat just as hearty as if he'd been really invited. Alright, the music's still a little bit hot if we want to be focusing on the dialogue, if we want to be focusing on the monologue, sorry. There was a young man so benighted. That's a little too soft. It's hard to hear. Let's go for -15. He never knew when he was slighted. He would go to a party and eat just as hearty as if he'd been really invited. Good enough. But now we have a problem. All the music is super quiet. So what we want to do is add some keyframes. And to do that, it's very, very simple. You can bring up the pen tool by hitting the P button, and then you can add keyframes willy-nilly. We can drag this back up to around -3. So now it's hanging out. Now the music is hanging out in the -6 to -3 zone, which is good. That's a little loose. Let's get it tightened up a bit. There was a young man so benighted, he never knew when he was slighted. He would go to a party. Alright, now that sounds okay because we've got decent levels for the music. And then when the narration comes in, the levels of the music go down so that we can hear the narration clearly. And then at the end, the levels will go up again. Just as hearty as if he'd been really invited. Now you hear how that music came back up a little slower than we'd like, so we can select the first keyframe, the one right there, and select the next one. By holding down Shift, you can select both of them, and then grab and drag them left and right. As if he'd been really invited. And then the music comes back in a little sooner. You can do a lot of tweaking to these keyframes. Make that a tighter fade up. Really invited. It returns to the full volume even quicker. Now, let's say you want to get a little bit more precise. Again, we're doing very, very analog controls here. You can click on this, which will bring it up in your effect controls, and now you have these keyframes here. We can zoom in a little bit to see them clearer. And you can use your left and right arrows to navigate between keyframes. Now we want this to be consistent, so we can type in -4. And when we're finished with the narration, we want that to be at the same level, so we go to -4 again. Now you'll see that this 15.6 is the same as 15.6. That is because we did not grab the keyframes when we adjusted this area. If you go to the middle, you've got this little up and down arrow, and that will take both of the keyframes at either end of that bar with it. So that's a very quick and easy way to edit audio. A young man so benighted, he never knew when he was slighted. He would go to a... Alright, that should cover the very basics of audio editing and should get you through the early stages of developing your own video content. Thank you so much for watching. I hope this was useful. If you have any questions, please feel free to contact us and we will only be happy to answer them. Good luck!